6 years. That's how long I had been working at Apex Consulting, building my career step by step, overcoming prejudices, and proving every day that I deserved to be there. 6 years of successful projects, satisfied clients, and results that spoke for themselves. 6 years believing that competence and dedication were enough to grow professionally. My name is Ashley Thompson, and until 3 months ago, I was a senior project analyst at Apex Consulting, a mid-sized business consulting firm that served clients across the country. I had built a solid reputation as a competent, reliable professional capable of delivering exceptional results even on the most challenging projects. During those 6 years, I had led system implementations for major corporations, developed process improvement strategies that saved millions for our clients, and mentored dozens of junior professionals. My project success rate was 98%, and I had a list of clients who specifically requested my participation in their projects. But according to Derek Williams, my direct supervisor and project manager, my potential was being limited by lack of flexibility in interpersonal aspects of the role. Ever been harassed at work and decided that instead of reporting it, you'd make the harasser taste his own poison? Ever pretended to accept someone's advances just to destroy their life at the perfect moment? Leave it in the comments. What I did when I pretended to go along with his proposals will shock you. The conversation that changed my professional life happened on a Friday afternoon in September in Derek's office. He had called me in to discuss growth opportunities and career development. "Ashley, you know I've always recognized your talent and dedication," Derek began, using the tone that every experienced professional learns to identify as a preamble to something unpleasant. "Your technical results are excellent, technical results." As if professional competence was just a minor part of what really mattered. "Thank you, Derek. I'm glad you recognize my work. I'm very motivated by the projects we're developing and eager for the next opportunities." "That's exactly what I want to talk about, Ashley. There's an account manager position being created, and I believe you have the technical profile to take on that responsibility." An account manager position. It was the promotion I had been waiting for 2 years, the opportunity to finally move from the operational level and take on strategic responsibilities. "Derek, that's excellent news. I'd be very interested in discussing this opportunity. What would be the scope of the position and the selection criteria?" "Well, Ashley, the thing is that this position requires more than just technical competence. Account management involves relationships, flexibility, and interpersonal skills that go beyond what you currently demonstrate. Interpersonal skills that go beyond what I demonstrated." Derek was suggesting that my technical competence was insufficient for a leadership position. "Derek, I have excellent client evaluations. My team has high job satisfaction, and I've already successfully led several projects. What specific interpersonal skills do you think need to be developed?" "Ashley, it's not about skill development. It's about flexibility, about understanding that professional growth sometimes requires demonstrating commitment that goes beyond the formal responsibilities of the position, commitment that goes beyond formal responsibilities." Derek was speaking in code, but I was starting to understand what he really meant. "Derek, I work more than 50 hours a week, take on extra projects, and I'm always available for emergencies. How exactly would you define commitment beyond formal responsibilities?" Derek got up from his chair and came to the side of the desk where I was sitting. My instincts told me to stay alert, but I didn't want to seem paranoid or defensive. "Ashley, what I'm trying to say is that promotions in this company depend on relationships, on demonstrating that you understand how things really work here." Derek positioned himself next to my chair, much closer than would be appropriate for a professional conversation. I could feel discomfort growing, but I still hoped he would maintain professional boundaries. "Relationships are important in any company, Derek. I've always strived to maintain good relations with colleagues, clients, and supervisors. But Ashley, some relationships are more important than others. Some people have more influence over promotion decisions. Some people have more influence." Derek was making it clear that he had power over my career and that this power wasn't based solely on professional merit. That's when it happened. Derek placed his hand on my leg, just above the knee, and left it there while he spoke. "Ashley, I really like you. You're intelligent, dedicated, and attractive. If you showed that you value our working relationship, I could be very useful for your career. His hand was on my leg. He was touching me inappropriately while offering professional advantages in exchange for personal favors. My first instinct was to pull away immediately, but part of my mind was calculating the implications. Derek was my direct supervisor. He had influence over my evaluations, my projects, my promotion opportunities. Confronting him could have serious consequences for my career. But I also knew that accepting or tolerating this behavior would be the beginning of a situation that could only get worse. However, instead of pulling away or confronting him, I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to pretend I was interested and use it against him in the most devastating way possible. Derek, I said, putting a smile on my face, I didn't know you were interested in me that way. His expression changed from nervousness to satisfaction. Ashley, you're a very special woman. I've always admired your intelligence and your beauty. And you really think you could help me with the promotion? I'm sure of it. In fact, if you showed that you value our friendship, I could guarantee you'd be promoted next week. Perfect. He was making the explicit offer. Derek, this is very interesting. But here in the office isn't the ideal place for this kind of conversation, don't you think? Of course, of course. How about we have dinner together tomorrow? We can discuss this better in a more private environment. I'd love to, I said, feigning shyness. Where would you like to go? Derek smiled like a predator who had captured his prey. I know a discreet restaurant. And afterwards, well, we can see where the night takes us. I'm looking forward to it. I lied, maintaining my smile. I left Derek's office that Friday afternoon with my mind racing. I knew I had just been sexually harassed by my supervisor, but I also knew that proving it and doing something about it would be extremely difficult. It was my word against his. Derek was an established manager with 6 years at the company and good relationships with management. I was a senior analyst without significant political connections, but I also knew I couldn't simply ignore what had happened. If I did nothing, Derek would probably interpret it as acceptance, and the behavior would only get worse. During the weekend, while Derek was probably fantasizing about our romantic night, I was planning his total destruction. First, I researched everything about his personal life. Derek had been married for 15 years to Jennifer, a teacher who worked at an elite private school. They had 2 teenage children and an impeccable reputation in the community where they lived. Jennifer was active in school parent groups and had an Instagram profile where she constantly posted about the perfect family she had built with Derek. Second, I discovered that Derek was competing for a regional director position at the company. The promotion depended on a character and leadership evaluation that would be conducted by the CEO in the coming months. Third, I confirmed that Apex Consulting had strict policies about sexual harassment and that the CEO had zero tolerance for this type of behavior. My plan was simple and devastating. I would let Derek believe he had seduced me, record irrefutable evidence of his proposals, and then expose everything at the moment that would cause maximum damage to his personal and professional life. I spent my lunch break that day downloading and analyzing weeks of security footage from the office. I installed a recording app on my phone, started keeping a detailed diary of all interactions with Derek, and researched Apex Consulting's HR policies about harassment and discrimination. I wasn't going to accept the situation passively, but I also wasn't going to make hasty complaints without solid evidence. The opportunity to obtain evidence came sooner than I expected. The dinner was scheduled for the following Saturday. I arrived at the restaurant dressed attractively but not vulgarly. I needed Derek to believe I was interested without seeming too obvious. Ashley, you look beautiful, he said, kissing my hand when we met. Thank you, Derek. You look very elegant too. During dinner, I pretended interest in his stories, laughed at his unfunny jokes, and let him think he was impressing me. When he started drinking wine, I pretended to drink too, but was actually discreetly pouring it into the plant pot next to our table. Ashley, I need to confess something, he said after his 3rd glass of wine. I've been fantasizing about you for months, really. I feigned surprise. I never imagined. How could I not fantasize? You're intelligent, successful, and absolutely stunning. He He was getting bolder with the alcohol. Derek, what about Jennifer? Aren't you happy in your marriage? Jennifer is a good mother, but there's no passion between us anymore. With you, I feel an energy I haven't felt in years. Perfect. He was admitting he was going to cheat on his wife. And about the promotion you mentioned? Ashley, if you're generous with me, I can guarantee not only the account manager position, but also a clear path to directorship. I have a lot of power in the company. What kind of generosity would you expect? Derek leaned closer, his breath smelling of wine. An intimate relationship between us. Regular meetings. A special partnership. A special partnership, I repeated, recording everything on my phone hidden in my purse. Exactly. You give me what I want, and I make your career take off. After dinner, Derek suggested we go to a hotel. Ashley, I reserved a suite at the Continental Hotel. We can continue our conversation there. Derek, I'm interested, but I need to be sure you'll keep your promises. Of course, darling. On Monday, I'll talk to Brandon about your promotion. By the end of the week, you'll be an account manager, and if I don't meet your expectations? Derek smiled sinisterly. Ashley, intelligent women like you know how to recognize a good opportunity. I'm sure you'll make me very satisfied, and if I decide I don't want this partnership anymore, well, that would be a shame. People who disappoint me tend to have difficulties growing in the company. Sometimes they even encounter unexpected obstacles in their careers. A veiled threat. He was making it clear that refusing would result in professional retaliation. At the hotel, I continued the game. We entered the suite he had reserved, and Derek immediately tried to kiss me. Wait, I said, pulling away gently. Let me go to the bathroom to freshen up. Of course, darling. I'll order champagne to celebrate our new partnership. In the bathroom, I checked that all the recordings were working. I had evidence of sexual harassment, professional blackmail, retaliation threats, and admission of intent to commit adultery. But I wanted more. I wanted to destroy him completely. When I returned from the bathroom, Derek had already opened the champagne and was waiting for me on the suite sofa. Come here, beautiful. Let's toast to the beginning of something special, Derek, I said, sitting next to him. Before we continue, I need you to explain to me exactly how our partnership will work. Well, we'll meet regularly. You'll be very affectionate with me, and I'll take care of your career. And Jennifer, she can never know? Of course not. This stays between us. And if other employees suspect? Ashley, I'm discreet. I have experience with this kind of relationship. He was admitting he had already harassed other employees. Other employees? Derek laughed, clearly intoxicated by the drink and the situation. Let's say you wouldn't be the first talented analyst to recognize the benefits of a close relationship with me. He was confessing to having a pattern of sexual harassment. And all of them were promoted? The smart ones were. Those who created problems, well, they don't work with us anymore. Retaliatory dismissal. He was admitting he had fired employees who refused his advances. Derek, you really are powerful, I said, feigning admiration. Very powerful, darling. In the company, what I say is law. And now, you're going to be part of my special circle. That's when I decided I had enough evidence to destroy him completely. Derek, I said, standing up, I need to tell you something. What is it, darling? I took out my phone and stopped the recordings. I recorded our entire conversation. From the office on Friday until now, his expression changed from lust to confusion and then to panic. What did you say? I have recordings of you offering promotions in exchange for sex, threatening my career if I refused, admitting you've done this with other employees, and confessing that you fired women who didn't accept your advances. Derek stood up, stumbling, clearly trying to process what was happening. Ashley, you can't. That's illegal. You can't record me without consent. Actually, I can. This is a one-party consent state. And considering you were committing crimes, the recording is perfectly legal. Crimes? What crimes? Sexual harassment, blackmail, extortion, abuse of power, creating a hostile work environment, and systematic sexual discrimination. Derek started sweating, the reality of the situation finally penetrating his intoxicated mind. Ashley, listen. We can work this out. I'll promote you immediately. Give you a raise. Whatever you want. What I want, Derek, is justice. Please, don't do this. I have a family. I have children. You should have thought about your family before trying to blackmail me into having sex with you. Ashley, I was drunk. I said stupid things. It wasn't serious. Serious enough for you to reserve a hotel suite and try to take me to bed. Derek started begging, all traces of arrogance and power disappearing. Please, I'll do anything. I'll give you my position, promote you, anything. Derek, do you really think I'd make a deal with a sexual predator? Sexual predator? Ashley, that's an exaggeration. You admitted to doing this with other employees. You threatened my career. You abused your position of power to try to coerce me into sex. What would you call that? Derek ran to the bathroom and I heard him vomiting. The stress and alcohol were taking their effect. When he returned, he was pale and sweating. Ashley, please, let's talk calmly. There's nothing to talk about, Derek. Monday morning, I'm going to deliver all these recordings to Brandon, to Human Resources, and to the company's legal department. What if I resign? Your resignation won't erase the crimes you committed, and it won't protect other women from going through what I went through. Ashley, I'm begging you, Derek. You're disgusting. You abused your position to blackmail vulnerable women. You created a toxic work environment. You betrayed the trust of your family and the company. I headed for the suite door. Now you're going to taste your own poison. Everyone will know what kind of man you really are. Ashley, wait. But I was already leaving Derek alone in the suite he had reserved to rape me. I left that hotel with recordings that would change everything. But I also knew that just having evidence wouldn't be enough. I needed a strategy to use this evidence effectively. During the next few days, I did additional research about Apex Consulting's organizational structure. I discovered that the CEO, Brandon Mitchell, had a reputation for taking ethics and compliance issues very seriously. He had implemented strict policies about harassment and discrimination, and there were documented cases of executives being fired for conduct violations. More importantly, Brandon had a daughter my age who worked at another company. I hoped this would make him more sensitive to workplace harassment issues. I also discovered that Apex Consulting was in the process of ISO certification for quality and business ethics. A sexual harassment scandal could seriously jeopardize this process and the company's reputation. On the Friday following Derek's second advance, exactly 2 weeks after his first inappropriate move, I requested a private meeting with Brandon Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, I need to discuss a serious professional conduct issue that's affecting my work environment. Of course, Ashley. I have time now. What's this about? I took a deep breath and made the decision that would change my career. Mr. Mitchell, I'm being sexually harassed by my supervisor, Derek Williams. He's offered promotion opportunities in exchange for personal favors and threatened my career if I refuse. Brandon's expression immediately changed to something very serious. Ashley, these are very serious accusations. Do you have specific evidence of what you're alleging? Yes, sir. I have recordings of conversations where Derek explicitly offers the account manager position in exchange for personal dinners and suggests my career would be harmed if I didn't cooperate. You have these recordings here? Yes, sir. I also keep a detailed diary of all inappropriate interactions, including dates, times, and witnesses when applicable. Brandon listened to the recordings with an expression that grew more serious with each word. When Derek said, "If you're generous with me this weekend, I can guarantee the account manager position will be yours next week," Brandon shook his head in indignation. Ashley, thank you very much for bringing this to my attention. This behavior is completely unacceptable and violates multiple company policies. I'll initiate a formal investigation immediately. Mr. Mitchell, I want to make clear that my goal isn't to cause problems for the company. I just want to work in a professional environment where I can contribute based on my merit. Ashley, you did exactly the right thing. This type of behavior cannot be tolerated anywhere, especially in a company seeking ethical certification. Over the next few days, Brandon conducted a discreet but thorough investigation. He interviewed other female employees to determine if there was a pattern of inappropriate behavior from Derek. He reviewed performance evaluations and promotion decisions to look for evidence of favoritism or discrimination. What he discovered was even worse than I had imagined. 3 other female employees reported inappropriate behavior from Derek, including sexual comments, unsolicited invitations, and pressure for socialization outside work. A junior analyst revealed that Derek had insinuated her contract renewal depended on being more friendly with him. More damning, Brandon discovered that Derek had consistently rated women lower than men with similar qualifications, and all promotions in his department over the past 2 years had gone to men. The investigation took 3 weeks. During this period, I continued working normally, but Brandon made sure I had protections in place. He transferred me to another supervisor temporarily and instructed that any retaliation from Derek would be grounds for immediate dismissal. Derek, meanwhile, seemed to be realizing something was happening. He tried to approach me several times to clarify misunderstandings, but I followed Brandon's instructions to refer all communications through human resources. The investigation results were conclusive. Ashley, I want to officially inform you that Derek Williams has been terminated for serious violations of our professional conduct and sexual harassment policies, Brandon told me during a meeting in the 3rd week. Derek was fired. The investigation had confirmed what I knew and revealed an even more extensive pattern of abusive behavior. Mr. Mitchell, thank you for taking this situation seriously and conducting a complete investigation. Ashley, I should thank you. Your courage in reporting this situation allowed us to identify and correct serious problems that were affecting multiple female employees. What happens now with the projects department? That's an excellent question, Ashley. We're looking for a new project manager to replace Derek. Someone with proven technical competence, ethical leadership, and the respect of colleagues. The way Brandon said this made me suspect he had someone specific in mind. Mr. Mitchell, have you already identified candidates for the position? Actually, yes. There's an obvious candidate who has excellent technical performance, natural leadership, and demonstrated exceptional integrity in handling a very difficult situation. An obvious candidate. Brandon was referring to me. Ashley, I'd like to offer you the position of project manager. It would be a significant promotion, with corresponding salary increase and authority to restructure the department as necessary. The project manager position, not just the account manager position Derek had offered in exchange for sexual favors, but Derek's own position. Mr. Mitchell, I'd be honored to accept this opportunity, but I want to make sure the offer is based on my qualifications and performance, not sympathy for the situation I faced. Ashley, let me be completely clear. I'm offering this position because you're the most qualified person available. Your technical performance is exceptional. You have natural leadership, and you demonstrated integrity and courage when facing an extremely difficult situation, Brandon continued. Additionally, I need someone I can trust completely to rebuild the department culture and ensure problems like this never happen again. I accepted the position immediately. Over the next 3 months, I took on project manager responsibilities and implemented significant changes in the department. I established clear policies about professional conduct, created safe channels for reporting problems, and implemented performance evaluations based purely on merit and results. More importantly, I hired 2 highly qualified senior female analysts and promoted the junior analyst who had reported pressure from Derek. The department became a model of diversity and professional conduct for the rest of the company. My promotion came with a 40% salary increase, authority over a $2.5 million budget, and responsibility for a team of 12 professionals. I was earning more money and had more authority than Derek had ever had. Most satisfying, I was sitting in the office that had been his, using the authority he had abused to create an environment where competence and integrity were the only things that mattered for professional success. But Derek's destruction was just beginning. Brandon, following compliance policies, reported the case to the Professional Consulting Board, which resulted in the suspension of Derek's professional license. The other employees who had been harassed filed individual lawsuits against Derek, seeking compensation for moral damages and lost professional opportunities. Most devastating of all, the recordings leaked to social media. Someone from the company I never found out who posted excerpts from the recordings where Derek admitted his crimes and boasted about his power over employees. The video went viral. Within 48 hours, Derek Williams was nationally known as the harassing boss who blackmailed employees for sex. His photo was on every news portal, accompanied by headlines like "Executive Recorded Offering Promotion in Exchange for Sex" and "Sexual Predator Use Corporate Power to Harass Employees." Jennifer, his wife, found out everything through social media. Within a week, she had filed for divorce and obtained a protective order to keep Derek away from her and the children. Derek's teenage children were humiliated at school when classmates saw the news. Jennifer had to enroll them in another institution to escape the embarrassment. The family home was put up for sale to pay legal expenses and compensation. Derek had to move to a small apartment in a distant neighborhood. No company wanted to hire someone with his reputation. He tried freelancing, but potential clients easily found news about him online. 3 months after my complaint, Derek was financially ruined, legally prosecuted, publicly humiliated, divorced, and professionally destroyed. 6 months after my promotion, Apex Consulting received its ISO certification for quality and ethics. Brandon publicly credited the changes in the projects department as a key factor in the certification's success. 1 year later, I was promoted to operations director, becoming the youngest woman to reach executive level in the company's history. Derek, meanwhile, had significant difficulty finding a new position. Word spread quickly in the industry about the reasons for his dismissal from Apex Consulting, and competing companies weren't interested in hiring someone with a history of sexual harassment. Last I heard, he was working as a freelance consultant, earning a fraction of what he used to make and struggling to rebuild his professional reputation. The irony of the situation was perfect. Derek had tried to use sexual power to control my career, but his inappropriate behavior ultimately destroyed his own career while catapulting mine. But here's what I want to ask you. Put yourself in my situation for a moment. Your supervisor puts his hand on your leg and offers you a promotion in exchange for sexual favors, while threatening your career if you refuse. What would you have done in my place? Would you have had the courage to document evidence and report sexual harassment knowing it could result in retaliation? Would you have accepted the promotion that came afterward? Or would you have worried that people would question your qualifications? Some people told me I was opportunistic, that I should have tried to resolve the situation less dramatically. They suggested I should have given Derek a chance to change his behavior before going to management. But here's what I keep coming back to. Derek made a deliberate choice to abuse power and position of authority to sexually harass subordinates. He created an environment where women were evaluated not based on performance, but on willingness to tolerate inappropriate behavior. And I made a choice to protect myself and other women in the company using legal means and proper channels. Do you think it was the right choice? Do you think there's any justification for sexual harassment in the workplace, especially when it involves supervisors offering career advancement in exchange for sexual favors? I'm genuinely curious about how other people would navigate this situation. What really bothers me about this experience isn't just that Derek tried to sexually harass me. It's that he was so confident I would either accept his behavior or be too afraid to report it. He thought his power position would protect him. He discovered it didn't. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had accepted Derek's advances or remained silent about his behavior. Would he have continued harassing other women? Would I have gotten promotions based on sexual favors instead of professional merit? I never would have been able to respect myself or my accomplishments if I had advanced my career through that kind of compromise. The satisfaction of sitting in Derek's former office, using authority he abused to create an ethical work environment, is immense. Every policy I implement to protect employees, every promotion I give based purely on merit, every success my team achieves is validation that integrity and competence are more powerful than manipulation and abuse. 6 months later, I received a call from an unknown number. "Ashley, it's Derek. What do you want?" I wanted to apologize to you and beg you to forgive me. Forgive you? My life is destroyed. I lost everything. My family, my career, my reputation. I can't even work as a waiter because people recognize me. And you got what you wanted. You completely destroyed me. Please, help me rebuild my life. I laughed. A genuine laugh of satisfaction. Derek, Do you think I destroyed you? You deceived me, recorded me, ruined my life. Derek, I didn't destroy your life. I just exposed who you really were. You destroyed your own life the moment you decided to use your power to harass women. Ashley, please. Derek, you drank the poison you prepared yourself. You created this system of blackmail and abuse, and I just made you experience the consequences. I learned my lesson. I'll never do anything like that again. Your lesson isn't my problem. My responsibility was to protect myself and other women from predators like you. You have no heart. I do have a heart, Derek. That's why I can't feel sorry for a man who used his power to victimize vulnerable women. I hung up and blocked the number. 2 years later, I was married to a wonderful man who respected my intelligence and ambition. We had a beautiful house, successful careers, and a relationship based on mutual respect and equality. Derek, according to information I received through mutual contacts, was living with his mother, working temporary jobs, and struggling with depression and alcoholism. His ex-wife had remarried a decent man who treated her and the children with the respect they deserved. Derek's destruction was complete, systematic, and definitive. He had lost everything: family, career, reputation, respect, financial stability, and professional future. And the most satisfying part of all, he had destroyed himself. I just documented his crimes and exposed them to the world. The sweetest revenge isn't the one where you hurt someone. It's the one where you let the person's own evil turn against them. Derek thought he was taking me to bed to use me and then discard me. Instead, he drank the poison he had prepared for me. And me? I was living my best life. Stronger, more successful, and more respected than ever. If this story resonates with you, if it makes you think about your own experiences with workplace harassment or the importance of standing up for what's right even when it's difficult, then maybe this is exactly what needed to happen. Maybe we all need to be reminded that harassment has consequences, that victims have rights, and that sometimes the best response to abuse of power is to use proper channels to hold perpetrators accountable. What would you have done in my place? How would you have handled discovering that your career advancement was being held hostage by sexual demands? Tell me in the comments. I'm genuinely curious about how other people would handle this type of professional violation. Share this if you believe predators should face real consequences for their crimes. And remember that your own story of resistance and empowerment is still being written. You have more power than you imagine, and sometimes the best way to prove it is to refuse to accept unacceptable behavior.